Hi, and welcome to the RAMS Agents Production Coaching Call. The goal of the call is to help you sell more homes by maximizing your repeat and referral closings by implementing the referral agent mastery system into your practice. My name is Mike Saronia, co-founder of RAMS Agents, and I'm excited for us to get our day started today. So let's go ahead and jump in. Who has some good news? Who has some good news they'd like to share?
Morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Sorry, my
Steve.
I was having some Bluetooth issues there. Um, I've got something really cool to share with everybody. So we talked about the St. Patty's Day scratch cards. Okay, so this is a email that we received from a client. Just going to read it quickly. Hi, Steve and Monica. Thank you for your thoughtful St. Patrick's Day card. You can't have known this, but I love St. Patrick's and always dress up in green. And her husband and Steve and I are both really into scratch cards. So what a perfect gift. I also wanted to let you know that your Christmas brittle was the best brittle I think I've ever had. Not brittle at all, ultra delicious, and honestly should probably be illegal. This is the cool part. I wanted to reach out about something else as well. Unfortunately, there are some family health issues back in Toronto. That means we'll have to leave Calgary. Given the challenges and costs of renting, or being landlords renting from afar, we're thinking we'll sell our townhome this year. Are you available to help us with that? If so, would you be free to speak sometime in the next few weeks so we can discuss options and strategies for selling? So crazy, but we talk about this strategy, this strategy we implement with touches, and I feel like it could not be more perfectly exemplified by that. It's really interesting. Bittersweet because we love these guys. They become like friends slash clients to us. But there it is. As they say, the proof is in the pudding. It's right there. So I thought, yeah,
Congrats,
I
Steve.
really wanted to share that with you guys. I was pretty excited when we got that email.
Steve, that's fantastic news, and I appreciate you sharing. And good job to you, right? You took the time to implement this idea, and it's already paying back dividends. Phenomenal. So, how long did you say that it took you to put that project together? Because you had to handwrite all those cards. How much time
Right.
did you invest in that project?
So it was about like with the running around and getting the tickets, I would say probably 3.5 to 5 hours, somewhere in there. The actual writing part of it I did in like three 45-minute sessions, basically. So and then a little bit extra time. I couldn't get all the scratch tickets at one place. That was kind of interesting. I had to go to a couple different places to get the very particular St. Patty's Day scratchies that I wanted, but no big deal because it all came together nicely aesthetically in that way. But yeah, so it was not a lot of time, not a lot of money, and now ultimately will result in the listing. So
That is fantastic. So, about 5 hours of time. Uh, how much do you think it costs you to put that together, that little project? The stamps and the
yeah,
cards and the scratchies and the envelopes, the whole thing. What do you think?
right around the $300 mark. I've actually been meaning to get a final and particular number, but it is right around that $300 mark.
And if I recall, you showed us a great example, and you had the card, and you put in two scratchies in each card,
Yeah.
and then you got the stamp. How many people did this go out to?
Went out to 65 people roughly.
65 cards with some scratchies and some personal notes.
Yeah.
Um, and you had a couple of stickers on there, if I remember, some St.
Yeah.
Patty's Day stickers. So 5 hours of your time, $300 results in a listing. How
Yeah.
many people listening to this would invest 5 hours of time and $300 to get a listing? Yeah, yeah, that's phenomenal. That is great news. Pretty exciting. It shows the power of the PCSOI, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then the mention of the previous touch with the PCSOI, that was our Christmas, not promotion as much as our Christmas activity where Monica did some actual home baking, and we went out to clients and said hello and gave this, and that was a little more time consuming, but again, the best touch because folks were saying, "Hey, come on in, have a tea, have a coffee," and it was really, really good to connect with everybody in such a way, and the mention of it there again is pretty awesome. So yeah, we were stoked. I was stoked with that email.
You should be. That's phenomenal. It's great work. Good job. Excellent, excellent job. So my thoughts here for you are, first of all, this is fun, right? I mean, was that enjoyable?
It was. It really was. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It wasn't stressful or difficult. It was fun. It results in business. My next thought for you is how can we expand that circle from the 61 to say 71 or 81, 91, 101, double it up to 122, right? Because as we do that, if we do it properly and do it correctly, that would double your business from that source.
Right.
Um, so that's something I want to challenge everyone with was how can you expand your PCSOI? Just remember you need to do it properly. We have a requirement for anybody to get into this special group. Who can remember the requirement?
If you could bump into them in the grocery store and they would recognize you and remember your name ultimately or have a conversation.
That's exactly right, Steve. You hit all of them. So you bump into them in the grocery store, on the street, somewhere unexpected. You all would recognize each other and you could strike up a conversation. If they meet that criteria, they can go in your PCSOI. And I challenge you that there's probably a lot more people that could go in your PCSOI than 61,
Mhm.
especially for you, Steve, because you have two people. It's you and your wife. And that means you have two spheres of influence. Now, there's some overlap, of course, but you also have your independent spheres.
Mhm.
Um, for instance, do you ever go to the dentist?
We do.
Would your dentist recognize you?
They would,
Could you
yes.
recognize them?
Yes.
Could you strike up a conversation?
I could, but you'll laugh at this, but our dentist is actually 5 hours away, if you can believe it. So that very particular example is not a perfect one, but I get you. If
That's a
we had
tough one with a
local,
toothache.
yeah.
Well, you threw a ringer in there.
That's a
Uh,
curveball, but I hear you. Like
yeah,
any other situation, that would work. Yeah.
it may still be somebody you throw in there. Do they know people in your area that they could refer? Are other people traveling the 5 hours?
Yeah, good question. I can't say for sure. I mean, I guess next time we're out there, I'd have to say, hey, do you know anybody in Calgary or moving? And that's a good thought, just to strike up that conversation when we're in Kimberley, Cranbrook area. Yeah.
All right. So I'm assuming that most people aren't traveling 5 hours for their dentist. They're in the same market, but that would be an example of somebody you could add to your list. Your doctor, your chiropractor. I'm thinking of professionals. Um, Anybody that you're bumping into, like I was thinking the other day that I didn't have on my list, my auto mechanic. I've known the auto mechanic for over 20 years. He and I know each other just by sight. We start conversations whenever we go in to have any work done on any of our cars in the family. We immediately start conversations and get into conversations about each other's family. I, and yet I don't have this person on my PCSOI list. Why? I'm not thinking broadly enough. And so I'm challenging everyone here on this call and everyone listening to think a little broader about who could go into your PCSOI. It's probably a lot more people than you think. I'll give you another example. Earlier in the year, I was doing some experimentation with prospecting, um, and I was texting out messages to expired listings. And it turned out, by the way, that that thing didn't work as well as I hoped. But I did have one hit. And I actually got into a conversation with a lady. I went over and met her at her property. I met her dog and her cat, and she's a very nice, pleasant person. We were starting to move towards doing something, getting her property listed and purchasing a property. And then she decided to put the brakes on after talking with her children. And so that came to a stop. Um, as I just recently sold a property that was like a great opportunity for her because of what she was trying to do. She was willing to do fix up and she wanted to move. She was in a townhouse and this was a house and it was exactly what she wanted with a basement. And her background was doing fix up. So it was like a great match. And so I mentioned it to her. It was in the same city and she looked into it. It seemed like a really good deal for her. Ultimately, she decided against it. She's not on my PCSOI list. And yet, if I bumped into her in the grocery store, we could have a conversation. You see what I'm saying? There are probably people on your leads list that if you've taken it far enough, they could actually move into your PCSOI. They've done studies on PCSOI, basically who do you know, who's in your sphere of influence. And most people, it's between 200 and 300 people when they really sit down and list it out. Right? How many, I'm trying to remember the right way to say this, but what's the average number of people invited to a wedding? Okay. Usually it's between 200 and 300 people. Why? Because that couple knows at least 200 to 300 people, family, friends, relations, connections, that they feel good enough to invite to their wedding. It was very common when I was growing up to go to these 300, 500 person weddings. I'm from the Italian side of my family, just crazy, huge weddings and galas and everything else. People really invested a lot back then in those celebrations. But the point was the number of people. Um, and so I talked to a lot of real estate agents, and a lot of real estate agents, they end up telling me I've got 50 people in my PCSOI. That seems to be a common number, somewhere between 50 and maybe 80. And I'm like, that's a great start. Absolutely. In fact, just by writing down the 50, you're ahead of probably 95% of the agents. But if we look at this idea of how many people do you actually know, how many people know you, you're probably falling short. And so I'm challenging you to sit down and try to figure out how to grow that list properly. Don't just throw anybody in there. If you just throw anybody in there, it becomes another list, it becomes worthless, and you aren't going to want to work it. But if you grow that list properly, I bet you, Steve in particular, we're talking to Steve at this point, I bet you could go from 60 to 120, maybe 180. You could double or triple your business out of that source like that. What do you think?
No, I appreciate that. Great insight. And gosh, even the mention of auto mechanic instantly. Like, gosh, this fella Serge, our family has been working with Sergio for 25 years between my parents, my family, my brothers, and my sisters. It kind of baffles me now that you mentioned it, that holy smokes, I go in and talk to Serge on a fairly regular basis with our vehicles and our kids' vehicles and all, and he is not on that list. So yeah. That is a great one. So I guess it's going to be some brainstorming now. And I will do that just simply on that example. Shoot, I'm missing the boat on some of these for sure.
Let me open up your mind one more level. So you add Sergio, right? You
Mhm.
add Sergio, you call him Serge as a nickname. You bring him into your world, into your sphere, and you start reaching out to him. You hand him the brittle, right? You give him the scratchy cards. You basically make an extension, a higher level relationship with him, a little more enjoy, a little more. You probably don't bring your car into him every month, but now you're contacting him every month. You're staying in touch with him and in front of him in a fun and enjoyable way. You're staying top of mind. Now, how many people do you think Serge talks to daily when he's working his auto business? How many people come into the shop
Oh,
and start talking to him? What do you think?
he is a busy shop, so I mean, it's got to be dozens, definitely dozens. You know, even as I sat thinking about it, is even his technicians. He's got a big shop. He's got probably 6 to 8 always on the floor. So, you know, as I was thinking about, I mean, gosh, I wouldn't even want to be necessarily be sending these to his home. I want to send this to the shop and add a little extra brittle and like make it so that these guys are all like, "Who? Hey, you got another gift pack from these guys at Swagger or Team Swagger? Holy smokes!" And then all of a sudden, they're pulled into the conversation. So, man, that is a real insight for me, and I'm sure that's just one of several that if we really brainstormed, we could be opening up that exposure to a lot of people, not just yeah, like you say, customers coming in, but also his team right in the shop. That's a real direct touch that we could be making often. So great insight.
A high value contact like that, you may want to personally deliver that basket of brittle, right?
Yeah,
With the idea that you're going to hand it out to everyone that's working there. Um, yeah, this opens up a lot of, if you start thinking about it, your mind space opens up, doesn't it?
it sure
You don't
does.
want, go ahead.
It sure does. And I mean that I think will be a as I say, a really intent time of brainstorming that Monty and I will sit down and start really thinking of those outlying PCSOI points that we can immediately start growing, you know.
I want to, how would everybody here like to make one extra closing this year? Anybody want to make one extra closing this year? You all know from our stats and reading and learning about repeat and referral that the referral productivity percentage is between 5 and 20% for people who are doing something with it, right? The top agents are up at 20%, the top solo agents, the people just getting into it, figuring out are around 5%. Let's just use somewhere in the middle, a nice reasonable number of 10% right now. That basically, if you had 100 people on your list, you would get 10 closings a year out of that, either by them doing something or them referring someone to you who would do something. And that's just proven stats over time, over so many people I've talked to. Um, you can take that and use it to your advantage. If you were to go out over the next week, start brainstorming of who should be on your PCSOI but's not there yet, and you were to add 10 names to your list, those 10 names, if properly worked, would result in one more closing this year. How much do you earn from a closing? Write it down. What is your, you have to know this number, by the way. What is your average GCI, gross commission income, before expenses? By the way, you should know your net too, but you should know at least know the gross. Did everybody just get a number to pop in the top of their head? Yeah? Everybody, give me some thumbs
Nine
up. Yeah?
$9,000.
You know, look at that. Blake knows exactly the number. Everybody else know the exact number? All right. Um, how would you like to add, Blake, $9,000 to your GCI this year? And do it this week.
I love it. I see where you're going, and that's right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Yeah.
Here is your assignment if you choose to accept it. Your assignment, your homework assignment this week is to go out and add 10 people to your PCSOI. Don't make it overbearing. Don't try to add 100. Just add 10. If you can't add 10, fine, add 1. Or add 3. Maybe you get lucky and add 20. I don't know. But try to do 10. The goal is 10. The goal is 10. In a week from today, write this down. This is an assignment with a due date. Everybody should be writing this down. I will go out and find 10 people to add to my PCSOI by, and the date. And the date next a week from now is March 25th. I love it. That's my mom's birthday. So March 25th. I will go out and add 10 people to my PCSOI by March 25th. That's the homework assignment. Why do it? One GCI check. All you have to do, see, once you've created your PCSY system, now you have to do is add people to it. Add people you meet, add people you have a closing with, add people that you went from, they were just way out here on the peripheral, I just barely knew them, to, we now recognize each other in the store. We could recognize each other in this grocery store scenario. They need to go on my list. See, now what you're going to start doing is you're going to start thinking as you're going through the world, wow, this person should be over on this list. But if you don't think that, it'll never happen, right? We do what we focus on. All right. All right, good. So that's our big lesson of the day. Add to our PCSOI. Steve, you started that off with the perfect beginning. I couldn't have planned that any better. I'll give you your $5 later for bringing it up. Not kidding.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Love being on your PCSOI.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good job. Good job. All right, anybody else have some good news that they would like to share?
I can share. I know, Mike, I've shared this with you personally one time, but I have a mailer, and this kind of fits with the well, it definitely fits with PCSOI. So this is it's a third party that prepares this magazine, and this particular one says "Good to be home." It's a very glossy uh, magazine filled with photos of homes and interiors and advice for the home. Well, look right here at the on the cover of the magazine is my photograph, and it says it's got my name, phone number, it has my brokerage, my email address, and up here at the top it says compliments of Blake Watson. And then I've got a letter on the inside cover that has my photo on it, and a little letter about, hey, thanks for being one of my friends, and I'm going to give you this magazine. There's some recipes in there. There's some tear out. There's this is a tear out recipe. Anyway, my second round went out this past week, and I'm only sending out 50 of these currently. 50 of them. And just like the first time, as I told you, Mike, I have received a lot of positive feedback. I've had people telling me, mostly what I get is a text from somebody that's received it, and they've got a photograph of it sitting on their countertop. And they say, look what I got in the mail today. And so that's just another touch, is the way I see it. And it's not something that gets thrown away. They obviously hold on to it for at least a little while. People have told me they're trying some of the recipes, and they really think it's cool. So, and I've had one person that actually took the photograph, said, and posted it on Facebook and said, look who showed up in my mailbox today, and had me tagged on there as well. So anyway, I just count that as a success because it's obviously generating some touches and some interactions.
Like, that's fantastic. And that's a pre-designed magazine, and they pre-designed and pre-print it. You just get to add a couple pieces of your face and your marketing onto what they've already designed and put together.
Correct.
So you're piggybacking on top of it. How much is that costing you to send out those 50?
So I jumped in on what they had was a Black Friday special. And so it's got some lead time on it. So I jumped in on that. So I'm getting a better deal for this first few rounds. But when it's full tilt, it's basically $5 per magazine delivered to my mailing address. So it's $4.99, I think is actually what the actual price is, plus tax. There's sales tax because it's being delivered in my states, so, 2 states. In fact, incidentally, I have one cover that goes to the state of Tennessee and one that goes to the state of Georgia. And each of them is customized on the back for that state. This one is for Tennessee. So both of my states, like I said, I'm sending out 50 of them, so I'm right at $250 a run.
And how often are you
And
sending it?
every 2 months, once every 2 months, it's 6 times a year. 6 times a year.
Very good. And what's the company that you're doing that with?
And this company that provides this is called Reminder Media. ReminderMedia.com, I think, is their website. And I've been very pleased with it. I have been. They were easy to work with. They make a good product. And obviously my PCSOI has taken note. So I think for $5 mailing something in the mail that would, if I was sending a card, my cost is generally around 80 cents to $1, depending on what I'm doing. Sending a $5 piece that goes directly to them that they actually will hold on to for a while, it's pretty cool too.
So your cost over the course of a year is about $1,500 to get out to those 50 people.
Six times, that's right.
Yeah, 6 times per year. And so how much did you say you earn on one commission check?
Excuse me. 9 grand. That's
9 grand.
great.
And
That's good, Mike. That's
have you
good.
received a closing from this yet? Have you
I have
received
not.
leads?
I have not. This is my second edition that just hit the mailboxes late last week. So I have not received a commission or a direct a referral that I can point to that. However, I'm also sending it to my past clients that we just closed on houses over the past year. So I'm definitely staying in front of them with this. It's an easy way to keep staying in front of
So I'm gonna mention a couple quick things here. Number
them.
one, you have not been able to track or identify a closing from it yet. Yeah, that's why we have to track what our marketing is and what we're doing so we know what's working. So this time next year and your contract comes up and you say, should I do this magazine again or not? It costs me, $1,500. Should I take that $1,500 and deploy it somewhere else, or should I keep doing this? And by tracking when closings come in, when leads come in, if you can, but then also the closings, even more important, you will be, if you know that source, you'll know what to invest back into. So that's just number one.
Good
Number
point.
two, go ahead, Blake.
No, I just say good point. Absolutely. We got to track this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because people, they get to the end of the year and they're making their business plan. Like, I wish I would have tracked because they didn't. And now they're guessing. You really want to know the actual stats. And the only way to do that is track it as you go. The other point that's really great, and I'm glad you brought this up, Blake, is marketing to the PCSOI is different than generic marketing out to the public. Okay, because I did a lot of the second, the latter, the marketing out to the public. I built a business off of geo-farming in the real estate. I built a business off of direct mail in the mortgage business. I did a lot of that type of work. And when you're in that kind of work, you're trying to figure out how can I get the biggest impact, but for the least cost. And you're trying to squeeze those pennies down, because when you're sending out thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I got to the point millions of pieces, one little penny saved is huge savings, right? That's not true with the PCSOI. The PCSOI is such a small group that you can invest heavily in it because it will return heavy. Okay. Remember, we're talking about the referral productivity percentage being 10% as an example. So that means you mail out 100 consistently over the course of a year, you're going to get back one closing. Excuse me, 10 closings. You're going to get 10%. So you get 10 closings by just going out to 100 people frequently. All right. It's such a great return on your investment. Whereas when I was blasting out to 10,000 people in a geo farm every month or multiple times a month, out of that 10,000, maybe I'd be lucky enough to get 50 closings, which sounds great. 50 to 100 if I'm super lucky, super strong year. But that's like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. I mean, the odds, the numbers go way down. And by the way, if you do it wrong, it doesn't work. It's very risky and very expensive when you're going out to the general public. One wrong word, you don't do your call to action right, you're just losing money, just blowing it out there. Might as well just flush it down the toilet. But if you reach out to your PCSOI with the stupidest, dumbest message, you could still get business because these people love you. It's so good. It is such good business. And such a good investment. So sending out this magazine for $5. By the way, that's a small quantity. That's the other thing is the quantity for $5 for sending out just 50 custom made magazines. That's super cheap. Super cheap. I was sending out my personal magazine and I would get the cost down. I'm trying to remember, it's been so long. And it wasn't nearly as big or thick as nice as yours, but I would do magazines as newspapers and other things. And I'd say I got the cost down to maybe 20 some cents for the magazine and maybe 10 cents for the newspaper. I was sending out 10,000, right? So, and all the mail that goes with all the postage that goes with that. So, I think investing in the small group that's going to give a huge return is super smart. And it's something that I miss as being a marketer, that this small group is so much more productive. And I think people probably underinvest. They don't invest enough in this group. Okay. So Steve, you for instance started the conversation by saying you spent $300 on a group of 60 people, and it looks like it's going to result in one listing and hopefully one closing at least. Every listing could result in 2 closings. So when marketed properly, let's say that you had the opportunity to send out to double that, 122 people, and spend another $300 and another 5 hours of your time to get one more listing. Would you do it?
Absolutely.
I think everybody listening would. And what a low risk. This is the point I'm trying to make. What a low risk. You spent $300 to get one deal. I would spend $3,000 hoping to get one call from a stranger.
I really like how measurable it is as well. Like we're talking about tracking and logging and making that part of the data. It is so measurable to be able to say, hey, on that case, really specifically, but to be able to have the conversation, how'd you hear about us? Or you can immediately get that data just with a simple conversation. I really like that.
Yeah, this is definitely an area to continue to invest in.
I was going to comment, Mike knows that my background prior to being an agent was marketing, advertising, and and that would be in mass media to large audiences. One of the truths in all marketing, and it's just as true here, is that there's a cumulative effect. So when we're touching our PCSOI again and again and again, as Mike was saying, that investment is so much more powerful than just blasting it out to 10,000 people. Now, maybe if you send it to 10,000 people and they keep repeating again and again and again, maybe that's going to get you where you need to be. But boy, that's expensive. And as Mike pointed out, the risk is high because everything has to be just right. Whereas with your PCSOI, you can be you can miss a few things here and there, but they've still got it that you're touching them, right? Because they already know you.
Totally.
Don't even have to have a call to action.
Yeah,
You can just
yeah.
say, I'm here. They're like, oh, that's awesome. We love you. Try that with a stranger. I'm here. And they're like, who cares? All right. That's awesome. Thank you, Blake. Good insight. One other insight that I think Blake made, which I think is awesome and talks about our society today. You said that you'll send that magazine out and then people will send you a text message with a picture of the magazine. Well, that's exactly what I got when I just sent out my postcards to for the St. Patrick's Day postcards. Somebody took a picture of the little scratchy and said, "Hey, we won," and they texted it back to me and said, "Thanks, thank you." So I think that is another medium that it's just a mind blower to me because I don't deal with that. I didn't deal with that for a long time. But yeah, that's a good feedback. And they also did it when I sent out the first postcard, did a little text of it, sent it back. So I think that is a good little feedback loop.
It's funny you mentioned that about the photos. Um, I happened to have also gotten another photo sent to me this week from a friend in my PCSOI that won my Valentine's contest in 2024, a year ago. She won a $100 gift card to a nice restaurant in town. Well, she and her husband finally went this past week to that restaurant, and she sent me a copy of the receipt and said, we could not have gotten this any closer if we wanted. It was like $99.56 or something like that. Right at so they just handed the card to their waiter and it was taken care of, you know. So anyway, it's funny because that photograph proof of performance that people are taking photographs of whatever it is and sending it to you. It's a very interesting dynamic, isn't it?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great one to share on social media. Blake, that picture of that receipt, say, oh, and just say the story.
That's true.
Valentine's Day, gave away the gift card. Someone just used it. Boom, check out this receipt. Yeah.
That's true. And it's funny because she actually posted it on social and tagged me and said, "Hey, thanks to our great realtor
Perfect.
Blake Watson for treating us to dinner."
That is
Um,
awesome. That's even
that's even
better
better.
social proof.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
even better.
Good example. Good example. All right, cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think, what else do we have here? Oh, so Tristan just left, but I wanted to point out something I thought was really cool. And I I will only wish we had a bigger group, but I'm glad you guys are here, just because of the power of what just happened. So Tristan I wish, again, I should have had him tell the story while he was still here, but he just got into a negotiation on a duplex, and he's been working with a young man who wants to buy a duplex, live in the half, and rent out the half, and they've been having challenges finding the right thing, and they keep going, and they finally found a property that would fit their criteria, and he just got it under contract after 9 days of negotiation. 9 days of negotiation back and forth. And according to what he told me yesterday, and if I get the story right, it kept like falling apart. Like it wouldn't come together, and the parties would go away. And then he would bring them back together, back to the table, basically, and start hashing it out, and it'd fall apart. And then he kept pushing to bring it back together, and they'd hash it out, and they get a little closer, and then they'd fall apart over 9 days. Could you imagine what persistence and tenaciousness? that he keeps pulling it back together. And it finally came together. They finally signed it off. And what he told me next was the power of this whole story. He said, I would have never done that before, kept trying to bring these people back together. But I learned in this mastermind, RAMS Agents Mastermind, from the story of Blake Watson, who had the inspection that was $5,000 off, and the deal died and everybody went home until the next day when Blake had enough courage to go out there and grab those people and say, you know, we're so close, let's pull this thing together. And he worked his magic and brought it back together. A deal that looked like it was dead got revived, and it's back together. Right? And that's what Tristan gained out of that, just being part of this mastermind, and used and applied in his situation for this deal that didn't look like it would ever come together. But after 9 days of negotiating, he pulled it together because he was persistent and consistent. Now, his client is better off. I'm assuming it'll get to a closing because this young man finally got what he was looking for. Tristan is better off because he's going to get paid and be able to feed his family and run his business forward. The other agent is better off. He's going to get all those benefits too because Tristan kept pushing it. The economy's better off. The appraiser's going to get paid. The inspector's going to get paid. Title reps are going to get paid. Attorneys are going to get paid if they have them in their state. All these people and all this ripple through the economy. Why? Because someone was persistent. But they learned that idea from example in this mastermind, watching Mr. Blake Watson do it. How cool is that?
The value of the mastermind right there. That's great.
Yeah, it's powerful. That's super powerful. Thank you for letting me share that story. I just love that one. Yeah, so cool. So cool. And remember, that's the other thing. We talk a lot about planting seeds with the PCSOI and keeping in their memory, right? And growing. Well, same thing here. We're planting ideas in your mind, things you may not even realize are valuable for another 6 months or a year from now until you run into the same situation. You're like, wait a minute, there's an answer to this. I know there's an answer to this. Let me think hard. You might come up with it on your own. You might have to go hit the resource. I think it was tied to Steve, and he did something with some scratch things, and they're trying to put it all together, right? That's the other power of this, right? Dropping all this little knowledge out there.
If I could share something really quick too, and this is apropos, Tristan, when he was talking about getting out and door knocking, I was like, you know something? When Monty and I first started in our business, I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to do that for a number of reasons because we had time to do it. I liked the idea of getting in front of people and just honing those communication skills. We've been able to talk about the market, field questions and whatnot. So Tristan got me thinking. And I went out and had these produced. So this is a door knocker. So you hang it on the door. And we did a business to business with a physiotherapist and another local business that we have a business to business with now. So my plan with this, because we're starting to get some beautiful weather now in Calgary, I'm going to go around with market data, with market stats, knock on the door and just say to them, introduce myself, say to them, hey, I've got some market stats here that are going to be really helpful to you in this area. Would you care to have these on a regular basis, regular updates of activity right here, in your neighborhood? And if they're interested, I'm just simply going to say, well, I can't give you the one I've printed because I'm not interested in handing out a whole bunch of media, but I'll take your email I'll take your information and I'll get it to you right away. So the strategy that I'm having, again, this is based right on Tristan's door knock, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'm reintroducing that. And now that we got some nice weather, great exercise. And then if the folks aren't there, if I don't get an answer, just hanging this on the door. It's got a little QR code to come to our website, and that really again opened up my thoughts to something that I like that grassroots in right in front of you connection. You know what I mean? And I genuinely enjoy it. So again, kudos to Tristan for getting me thinking on that avenue again. And it was again because of this that rooted.
Absolutely. What a great idea. I love how, again, you take the idea and you plussed it up to apply it to your market and your situation. So, Tristan, just to go back to the story, knocks on doors, talks to people, and he has then bringing the people that have joined his brokerage to go do the same. You got a gal who hadn't had a closing, I think, in a year with another company. She comes, joins Tristan, knocks on a couple doors, understands how to do it, goes out on her own, knocks on a couple doors. Somebody doesn't get answers. She just decides to leave a business card on the door. One of those business cards calls her back, lists the property, closes. From just leaving a business card on the door, we don't realize that just some of these little reach outs we make, things could happen. I would have never thought just leave a business card will result in a closing. I mean, you didn't even have a conversation with them. It was just right time, right place, and most importantly, took action, right? So Steve, you take action out there, good things are most likely going to happen, right? I love that you're going to drop that door hanger off there, and that you've designed it. You're creating an approach. Quite honestly, it doesn't matter what your approach is. Obviously, some are better than others, but it's really really a purpose, a reason for you to go do it, right? Whatever that needs to be, that's going to be the way it's going to work the easiest for you to feel confident about going out there. So if you feel good about having that hanger, you could drop it in there, then that's the power of having the approach and having the hangers. And then I do really like the idea, by the way, of you capturing their contact information. That is got to be the purpose. Remember the funnel idea. It's the top of the funnel. How many people can we get in the top of the funnel? Yeah, but they don't want to buy right now. I understand. Put them in there. I mean, the reach out is so simple after that, right? You're going to send out email, maybe a postcard here and again. Cheap, cheap. So good. Especially somebody you had a conversation with, and you've got that beginning of a part where they could become move into your PCSOI, especially after you reach out to them a couple times. All right, good job, everybody. Liking what I'm hearing. Let's do this. First of all, I did want to say we don't have everybody here, but we added a couple people to RAMS this week. So Blake, congratulations on bringing in Kim Tucker. I was wondering if she was going to show today, but maybe next time. And then with Angela, Patty brought in Brian Johnston. I thought maybe he'd show up today too. So that's fantastic. So we added 2 more people to the group, and I'm pretty excited about that. And just wanted to mention that I was impressed with your efforts, both Blake and Patty, with Angela, to make that happen. That's just awesome. Keeping your mind open to opportunities of who could benefit from what we're doing here with RAMS agents. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Let's see, we talked about that already. Okay, so let me just do this as we're starting to come to the end. Is there anything that's burning in questions, issues, things you want to bounce off the group with your production side of your business, with getting more business? Is there anything that you have a question about, challenge, struggle, or even a brag? Is there anything you want to get out there?
I'm just excited about my homework assignment. And Steve knows what we're talking about here. We're going to add 10 people. I'm going to add 10 people to my PCSOI this week by March 25th. So I'm going to have that done by next Tuesday morning. Um, that's great. I am excited about that because when we put the numbers together and realized how impactful that is, and at least right now, I know that I have room to make that happen relatively easy because there's people on the fringe that I'm not counting that I need
And you
to.
have a system in place, right, Blake?
Yeah,
You've been reaching out to people for over a year.
correct.
You know how to do this.
That's right. That's right.
You have a system, and now it's just adding some more people that you've bumped into or or recognize. Um, well, I'm proud of you, Blake. Thanks for bringing that up. It's going to be a great assignment. I hope everybody executes on that. I see that Angela was able to join with us. Welcome, Angela. Angela, the assignment, if you choose to accept it, is to add 10 people to your PCSOI over the course of the next week. And then that's due on March 25th, which is the week from today. And just to recap real quickly, there are examples all over that we forget about. And we talked about like our auto mechanic was a real good one for both me and Steve as an examples. People we've known a very long time, they know us. We could totally recognize each other in the grocery store and strike up a conversation. But didn't have them on my PCSOI because I'm thinking, oh, that's the auto mechanic, rather than thinking, hey, this is my friend. Okay, so there are probably a ton of people. And I think we should do more on that over the next coming weeks and months to see if we can't get all of our lists up. But this first assignment is see if you can add 10 people to your list. Okay. All right, cool. All right, anybody have anything else? All right, let's do this. Let's wrap up the production call. It was a good call. It was a lot of fun today. And let's go into our huddle. So in the huddle, we have 2 questions you answer. Number 1, what is the number 1 most important thing you did last business day, say yesterday, to move your business forward? And number 2, what is the number 1 most important thing you're going to do today to move your business forward? Who would like to start?
I can jump in there. So I think I shared with you our listing in Corey Park. New listing came live on Thursday, March 6th. So we did open houses on the 8th, promoted through the week, another open house on the 15th. And we're starting to kind of like, gosh, okay, what are we going to do to stimulate this? We did a slight price adjustment. Yesterday got within 6 hours, 2 offers, which we were able to leverage against each other. We ended up closing above asking, which was, Monty and I were so thrilled. Our client was thrilled. It was really a reminder of the importance of leverage in those offers. It was really clear which one was the winner. And what the strategy we ended up using was to the 2 offers, just sent out an email with both of them tagged in the same email and simply said, thank you so much for your offers. We would ask that you provide your final and best offer by 6:45, as our client will be reviewing the offers at 7 p.m. And the one didn't move, and that's fine, but the other came up over asking and even sharpened their conditions to a point that I was like, we don't even have to negotiate anything further. They did it for us. So that was like a big win for us yesterday. We're really excited, as is our client. And that was big yesterday. So, and then today, it is simply the getting out for a walk, doing the door hangers, connecting with people. And again, I'll have to see when I see Tristan, I'm going to tell him, thank you, Matt. And I'll hopefully have some great feedback for you on some conversations that I've had today with our next meeting. So that's for me.
That's fantastic. Fantastic news. Way to go, Steve. Way to negotiate the two parties on your new listing to get the best deal for your client. Way to be open to making a slight little change in the approach, in this case, price. You also were getting out there in the market, getting in front of people. You were able to stimulate that interest. A quick quick announcement, I guess, is that Thursday, be sure to look for an email from me, because on Thursday, I'm going to send out an email that references a video that I'll be releasing on Thursday, where I talk about my tug of war negotiation concept. The tug of war negotiation concept that can work in a multiple offer situation, can work in inspection negotiations, any negotiation over any term in any situation. But anyway, be sure to look for that. I just want you all to know that that's coming out. Good job, Steve. It sounds like you were using some of those principles in there, and I'm really happy to hear that. Good work. All right, who else has would like to share? Number one thing they did last business day, number one thing they're going to do this business day.
I'll jump in. I have a rental that needs to be filled. And so I had an open house over the weekend there, and then yesterday met with several people at the property. Um, it is a rental. They're looking to rent, but some of the folks are moving to town. And in my opinion, any meeting is a good meeting and an opportunity for them to interact with me to interact with them, and give them my card and talk to them about what they're doing. So that was yesterday. And then today, I think getting started on my homework assignment, I'm going to try and get 4 of them added today, or so that I'll be able to have a strong head start on my week.
That's fantastic, Blake. And don't be shy. If you just are on a roll, just roll as far as you want to go. You don't have to stop at 10 or 4, just roll. Because sometimes we get in that mind space and we're like, wait a minute, then there's Blake, and then there's Blake, and then there's Blake. And the other thing is, when you're making that list, it's okay to make just a little note. Like, you can only remember their first name, that's fine. If you're in that brainstorming, just write it down. Yeah, it's Sally at the hairdresser. No, just boom, quick note. You just keep going. You don't stop and try to get all the details and all the information on that one person, and then you didn't get your list of 10. Does that make sense? Just go ahead and brainstorm that baby out. You'll be impressed with how many people you find, and then you can do the research later and get all the details. Good job, Blake. That's awesome. And Steve, real quick, I also should have mentioned you just had this great deal where you brought these parties together, the negotiation. Don't forget to get a testimonial on that. You do not have to wait till the end of the closing or after the closing to get a testimonial. You can get it right now today. Could have got it last night. Whip out the camera or the video or do a Zoom or whatever. Try to get a video testimonial whenever possible. And just ask him, hey, do you mind doing a testimonial for me?
Great suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah. I did that for the closing I just had. And my guy's like, yeah, just tell me what you want. Right. So just ask. People are usually very happy, especially after you just did something amazing for them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And the video testimonial, that's an interesting, I've never done that. We prep our clients by saying initially in our first meeting that we're going to work so hard for you. At the end of this process, we're going to ask you for a Google review, and ultimately prep that by saying we're going to demonstrate how hard we're working for you in the end if you do a Google review. And people always do, like always give us a review. I would say, since we've been asking, and that was the key since we really started that strategy. But the video, that's insightful. It's never occurred to me say like, hey, would you do a quick video review and just give me your feedback on the spot of it? So yeah, I'll try that with Josh. That's a good suggestion.
Sometimes we get a little stuck. Let me just answer that real quick, because this is super important, testimonials. Sometimes we get stuck on how would I approach this. First of all, you can just whip out your camera and say, hey, tell us about the deal. If you forget everything, you get nervous, just say, hey, could you tell us what happened? I mean, everybody can think of that question, right? Just tell me what happened. If you want to frame it a little more, first of all, you can have all these questions set up like me, like when I would do an interview. You can do that. That's fine. Have it very formal, and that works good. I was thinking on this one, I haven't done it yet because of some other circumstances that occurred. By the way, strike while the iron's hot. I should have done it when I was right there, but we were both in a little bit of a hurry. But I bet I could have pulled it in and just done it. And now we're having delays because of things outside of our controls. But I was trying to think of how would you start the conversation? How would you preface the person to start? And you want to make it super simple. And so I think the script, if you will, would be to tell them to say, hey, just say what your name is. Say, hey, my name is, and then say, and I was helped by to do X. And then just tell us about X. So my name is Mike. I was helped by Blake to sell a house, and here's what happened. Because that's what you want on the testimonial, right? You want them to start off by saying who they are, that you were the one that helped them to do X. Now here's the story. And if you do that, you may not even have to do any editing. It may just be, boom, there it is. All right, so good. Fantastic, that's great news. Angela just had to go catch a flight, so we won't get her input. But let's see, for me, yesterday, I was just wrapping up that closing and all the parts. There's so much to these silly deals. But we got paid and everything worked out. I had a closing on Friday. I guess I should have said that to start. We finally got that thing closed on Friday. Finally, it took 11 days start to finish. It was pretty good, but it was all last minute craziness for the whole day. Didn't even know if it was going to actually close, but it did. It closed and it funded with a loan, which is pretty amazing in 11 days. And anyway, my client was ecstatic, and that was a lot of fun. So yesterday I was just doing the wrap up and the cleanup on that, trying to find all the pieces to make sure you do it properly. Like I forgot to put it in the MLS, right? It was sold. So all these little teeny pieces to just wrap it up and finalize it. And then today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm doing a just sold postcard with some testimonial on it that I already received through text. So some written testimonial that I can get out right away. And by the way, I was smart enough to just take my phone and I walked over to my client at the closing. I said, hey, can we take a picture together? And then he just did a little selfie, of us standing there together, which I'm going to use on this postcard to go out. And I'm going to tell the story, right? You know how much I like stories. So I'm just going to tell the story of what happened on this postcard. And I'm going to send it out to who? PCSOI. All right, cool. All right, everybody, thank you for being here today. You did a great job. Have a wonderful and fantastic and productive day. Take care.
Hey, everybody.
Bye for now.